Welcome to the Bald Brad Show, folks. The saga continues on what is going on with the mishandling of Afghanistan by the Biden administration. And get this, they want praise from media outlets and considering it a success. Not only that, they want pats on the back from the American people regarding their evacuation, regarding everything they have done in Afghanistan. They think they're doing a good job. I kid you not, folks. Get ready for this one. We're going to take a deep dive here. This comes from our friends over at the Daily Wire. If you're not already a member, please go over and become a subscriber today. They title this, Biden administration trying to get media praise for Afghanistan evacuation. And they're semi-getting it, which is the crazy thing. Like I said, the media want to rub their shoulders. Like I said in the other episode, they're not going to cover this in the same way that they would cover the Trump administration. They're always trying to deflect things and blame either on Trump or they're going to cover for the Biden administration, and they're semi-already doing it here over the disaster that the Biden administration has created in Afghanistan. Well, it says here, the Biden administration is attempting to get media outlets to praise its Afghanistan evacuation, even though the situation has been a disaster. Check this out. Politico reported that within the past week, the Biden administration went from dodging questions and avoiding the topic of Afghanistan to expecting praise. Quote, top Biden officials and administration allies have begun aggressively touting the success of their evacuation efforts in the war-torn country, offering frequent updates on the number of evacuees. They framed the operation as historic, in line with the Berlin airlift, declared that they're overperforming their own metrics. It's just, really? Really? We're doing a phenomenal job. We're killing it, folks. Everything's going great. We're killing it on our metrics. Woo! Come on. And trumpeted the president as defying expectations. I mean, when you're considered a senile old man and you're practically dead, I guess you're exceeding expectations. Just you waking up every morning is exceeding expectations. The fact that you can still breathe out of your nose, Joe, is exceeding my expectations. It's a startling 180 from the defensive crouch Biden and his team occupied just days ago. One that reflects the sense of combativeness that has emerged in the West Wing as they sort through the first major sustained crisis of the administration. Really? The first major crisis? You know, 100 illegal immigrants crossing the U.S.-Mexico border and being apprehended? That's not a crisis. That's not a big issue. You know, maybe terrorists coming through our U.S.-Mexico borders? That's not an issue. That's not a crisis. Not a big deal. And we'll let it go. No issue here. Nothing to see here, folks. Turn away from it. It's just, come on, Politico, get it together. And while it sparked accusations that the president's team is trying to divert attention away from a crisis of its own creation, very true, Biden's defenders stressed that for now at least, he deserves the crow. Well, let's go on here of him just not diverting the situation. He wants to talk about COVID-19. You know things are bad when he wants to talk about COVID-19 consistently here. He wants to talk about a different crisis than the actual crisis that's going on at the present time, or both crises at the same time. This guy has a freaking immigration crisis, a legal immigration crisis. Again, I said illegal. All right. He also has COVID-19 crisis on his hands. And now he has the Afghanistan crisis on his hands, as well as an economic crisis. This dude can't get his stuff together, but we're supposed to say that he's meeting expectations, folks. He's killing it. Come on, that's laughable. What a joke. On Tuesday, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki called the evacuation a success during a press briefing. We talked about it in yesterday's episode. It was a freaking jaw-dropping. She wanted a success to be called on this whole thing? I don't think so. This is going down as a freaking disaster under the Biden administration in the history books. I would say that it is now on track to be the largest airlift in U.S. history, so no, I would not say that is anything but a success. Psaki has been responding to questions by Fox News' Peter Doocy, which we've done a couple episodes on, who asked if the U.S. was concerned that some of the Afghans evacuated from Afghanistan may have ties to terrorist groups or terrorist organizations. Well, former State Department employee during the Obama administration said the Biden administration hasn't shifted its message. It's just that the situation has shifted. Well, of course your message would shift as the situation's shifted as well. The problem is the situation has only gotten worse. Right? You still have people stranded. You're telling us that there's only maybe a few hundred that are still ready to be evacuated, but yet we still have record amount of people in the thousands and like 10,000 people here that haven't been evacuated yet. So the situation is not getting better. There's a deadline that's established. It's already August 26th. You're not going to make that deadline in evacuating everybody here because you're on Taliban time, according to Jen Psaki and Joe Biden here, which why the hell are we listening to the Taliban as far as timeline? Since when did they start becoming into the conversation about anything here? Unbelievable stuff that's happening, but they're going to allow it to go. Wait till we get into a deep dive here. But it goes on here to say it seems difficult to claim that the situation has improved, which is what I just stated. There are reportedly more than 10,000 people still waiting to be evacuated from the country, yet the U.S. is already pulling out its troops ahead of the 31st deadline. Oh my God. Oh, this is a success, guys. 10,000 people stranded in a terrorist-ran country. And we're pulling out our troops first, the ones that are supposed to protect them and kind of guide the whole situation before the August 31st deadline. Pat on the back, Joe. You're doing a great job, buddy. You senile old man. Oh, Lord, help us. We got a ton of stuff to go. We're not even close to being done here. The Daily Wire reported Wednesday that Afghanistan is now facing a humanitarian crisis as Western countries pull out their troops and citizens from the country. Notice it says Western countries. Our allies are pissed off at Joe Biden for not extending the deadline because they have people there too. It's not just Americans there. There's the British there. There's Australians there. There's Germans there. There's other people from Western countries that have their freaking citizens there. And they asked Joe Biden to extend the deadline because we need to get our people out, help us out. And Joe said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to make it. Adrian! Freaking Joe. I say it every time. It's remarkable that this guy got in office. We're 8 months in, this guy can't get his crap together. And it makes you wonder where we're going to go in 3 years. You know, how is he going to screw this up more? An internal document of the World Food Program warns that a humanitarian crisis of incredible proportions is unfolding before our eyes. Oh my God. And again, the whole premise of this show is that they want a pat on the back. They want a success for what's going on here. And you have a program that's considered the World Food Program saying there's a humanitarian crisis of incredible proportions is unfolding before our eyes. And Jen Psaki wants to spin this. The State Department, our own government wants to spin this and tell us they're doing good. They're killing it. They're doing great. Meanwhile, check this out. And we talked a little bit about this kind of offhand. It was kind of slid under the rug yesterday. The Biden administration has claimed it has evacuated more than 75,000 people since July. Now, that's kind of misleading because that's talking about military, things of that nature, not necessarily just U.S. citizens. It's also talking about State Department people. So you're talking about government people, not necessarily citizens here when it's the 75,000 since July. Kind of misleading. Now, the administration is expecting that narrative to change and the media to follow suit, right? Because they're their patsy. You know, they're the ones that are going to cover for them. And that's why, again, it's expected the media will follow suit based on the narrative that Jen Psaki and the Biden administration is pushing. And we need to be aware of it because it's disgusting and it's sick. But the conditions on the ground don't seem to favor praise. You're damn right. Especially after reports that the U.S. will leave behind 75,000 military vehicles. Let me say this again because it's astonishing numbers here. Okay, we haven't even talked about the weapons. That's just the vehicles. 75,000 freaking vehicles. How many weapons do you think? Leave it in the comments. Just take a guess. How many weapons do you think we're leaving to the Taliban? The ones that are beheading people, raping women, huh? Just let me know. Think about it. It's 600,000 weapons we're leaving to the Taliban. But they're going to get praise over this, folks. We paid for all these weapons with our damn tax dollars, and now they're just handing it over and basically funding a freaking terrorist organization with military vehicles and weaponry. You gotta love it, but they want this to be a success, folks. They're doing a great job over there in the White House, killing it, doing everything right as a freaking terrorist organization runs roughshod over a country. People are crying. We have to remember, we've been pretty much controlling and putting security within that country for 20 years. The average person's age within Afghanistan, I think, is between 18 to 20, meaning most of these people, on average in Afghanistan, haven't lived under Taliban rule. They haven't lived under the rules that were before, obviously, they existed before we entered Afghanistan. So they lived a certain lifestyle, and now they're freaking out because they understand what the Taliban's like, and the Taliban's lying and make it seem like they're kumbaya and all this good stuff. I love it as they're mowing people down again in the streets, beheading people like I previously mentioned, whipping women in the streets for committing some sort of, looking at the sky. You know what I mean? Or maybe their headband or whatever the the Shah isn't on correctly or whatever it is. Forgive me. My mind's all over the place. I can't even remember what it's called at this point in time. But we also have an article here. Americans at Kabul airport gates are urged by U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan to leave immediately. They're telling Americans. I shit you not, man. I can't believe this is real. I can't believe any of this is real. I'm trying to keep it together. I am fumbling through my words because I can't believe all these stories that we're doing today are just real. And our president's reaction, wait till we get to that video. They're telling Americans to leave the airport because it's not safe. Why is it not safe, Joe? Because you're pulling our troops out, the ones that are keeping it safe. God, it's basic. How the hell are people supposed to be evacuated if it's not safe for them to get there, right? And then stay there so they can be evacuated. But it's a success, guys. They're killing it. They're doing a great job. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's sarcasm at this point. It's a freaking joke. This guy's a joke, man. The United States Embassy in Afghanistan warned Americans trapped in the country, remember, but they're not supposed to be trapped. They're not stranded, according to Jen Psaki. They're just sipping on their pina coladas, having a nice vacation in 110-degree weather as Talibans are running everywhere, just shooting people in the streets. Yeah, what a nice vacation, Jen, you idiot. The country not to travel to the airport due to security threats and urged that those at certain airport gates to get out immediately in a startling statement early Thursday. Quote, because of security threats outside the gates of Kabul airport, we are advising U.S. citizens to avoid traveling to the airport and to avoid airport gates at this time unless you receive individual instructions from U.S. government representatives to do so. Oh, I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing at the situation. I'm laughing at our president and our government lying to us. And we spent 4 years hearing about how bad Trump was as a president, how mean he was. Oh, he's a mean old orange bad man. He's racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, all this other stuff. And you got a senile old man that's voted in by these leftist idiots, these Democrats. And this is what we have. And you know what? A lot of times I don't like name calling and stuff, but we all know our friends who voted this guy in. Okay? We all know who you are, and you're a knucklehead. And that's why I don't want to have conversations with you, because you voted in this guy, and now you have a disaster, and now you're quiet. All of a sudden, you're not posting nothing on social media the last 8 months. I spent 4 damn years hearing you freaking cry and complain and whine every freaking day. And now you don't got shit to say about this. You don't have got crap to say about what's going on. It's astonishing. They don't have anything to say. Just come on. Oh, the warning underscored the chaos and uncertainty on the ground outside the Kabul airport, where hundreds of Americans still having been attempting to get out of the country. U.S. troops have been stationed at the airport. Well, not anymore, because Joe's pulling them out, folks. Joe is getting them out before the 31st deadline. If anybody's stranded, we'll see what Joe has to say about that. We'll see Joe's reaction when the press asked him, Joe, what's going to happen after the deadline? We'll see if he answers that in a moment. But on top of that, if you remember yesterday's episode, Jen Psaki said, oh, if there's anybody stranded, Peter, give him my number. They can give me a nice little ring on the phone. They can DM me. They can text me. They can email me. We're going to get them out. Oh, really, Jen? Oh, really? This comes from Hank Barron of the Daily Wire. Psaki on trapped Americans. Give me their contact info. Well, a desperate woman, I'm waiting for her to open her DMs. Waiting for the replies, waiting for me to be able to contact her. Again, it's all BS from Jen here, and we know that. And now she's being caught out for it once again here on the Bald Brad Show. And this is our bread and butter here, hitting our freaking government left and right, the ones that want power, the ones that want to lie to us, and we're going to call them out on their BS. On Tuesday, the White House press secretary stated that if there were any American citizens registered in Afghanistan that wanted to leave, people should give me their contact information and we'll get in touch with them. If any of you are hearing from American citizens who can't reach us, give me their contact information and we'll get in contact with them. Oh, really, Jen? Well, it turns out a woman who had worked for the Peace Corps in Peru responded on Twitter writing, to be very clear, it's insane that the White House is telling people to DM them if they know of Americans stranded. To be clear, or more clear, your damn DMs are not open, Jen. How are people supposed to contact you? Are you just going to sit there and contact 10,000 people? Are you going to contact 1,000 people, Jen? Because you can't even tell us what the deadline was yesterday. You couldn't tell us if it was August 30th. You couldn't tell us if it's August 31st. You couldn't tell us if it was midnight or if it's earlier in the morning. You couldn't tell us if it was American time, US time, or Afghan time. You couldn't tell us any of that stuff. And now again, you're trying to spin it here and make it seem like it's a success as you're freaking lying to all of us. Well, this lady continued saying, I'm waiting for press secretary to open her DMs. I have a passport numbers of 3 American citizens who are stranded in Kabul, a woman and her 2 kids, American citizens. Well, I'm sorry, but now how are you going to get to the airport when the freaking U.S. Embassy tells people not to go to the airport? So what a terrible thing. You have a lady here that's trying to do something good and give somebody's passport numbers to Jen Psaki, who said to give me their contact information so I can get them out. We're going to have them fly out of Kabul, but then I'm going to tell them not to go to the airport because of security reasons, because Joe Biden thought it would be a good idea to pull our troops out. It's just, does anybody see the chaos here? I'm trying to package it in a way that's understandable here because there's so much information that is going out there. It's almost hard to fathom and package it in a way that makes sense here. That's how much of a PR nightmare this is on the White House. This is how much our government is lying to us. Half an hour later, she tweeted, grateful to the people who reached out to help these American citizens trapped in Kabul. You know who you are. You're the real heroes here. FYI, not the White House. Now it's just time to pray. Something I love here, and I wasn't even going to talk about this on the show, Glenn Beck was working with, I believe, the Nazarene Fund. Glenn Beck is in the Middle East right now in Afghanistan. They raised over $30 million. Again, this is Glenn Beck. He used to be on CNN. Obviously, he's a conservative. He has, and I believe he's the co-owner or the owner of the Blaze Media. We do a lot of their articles here from Phil Shiver, and the legend. And so he's raised over $30 million to get Christians out of Afghanistan. Phenomenal work on Glenn Beck. And I wanted to give him a shout out because he deserves it here. It's not the White House that's doing yeoman's work. It's American citizens raising money to get other people out of the country because we promised them. We promised to take care of them. And Americans always keep their promises. And that's why Trump was so great. Trump didn't keep every single little promise, and we can't expect the president to keep every single little promise they make, but damn, man, he kept his word, and we are all missing him right now, and the Democrats know they screwed up with this vote. They know they screwed up big time, and they don't want to admit it. Well, lastly, what was Biden's reaction to all of this? Get this, we have a clip here. This is going to piss you off. This guy's reaction definitely got under my skin. This also comes from the Daily Wire. Biden pressed on what he will do if Americans remain trapped in Afghanistan past the 31st deadline. Do you think that he just kind of gave a nice, drawn out answer, nice, very specific answer to the American public on what his plan is? The plan that's going to happen in about 4 or 5 days here? No, we'll see that in a moment. President Joe Biden took no questions about the crisis in Afghanistan. Shocker, because, they have to be pre-vetted, right? He didn't have time to write his note cards so he can answer pre-vetted questions. On Wednesday afternoon, following remarks that he made on a cybersecurity event, at the end of the event, there was brief remarks. Biden was repeatedly asked what he would do if Americans were still trapped in Afghanistan following the August 31st deadline. Here's his reaction.
Thank you all very much, and thank the press for being here. We're going to go private now.
Mr. President, if Americans are still in Afghanistan after the deadline, what would you do? Sir, what would we do if Americans are still there after the deadline?
Well, what's crazy about this whole clip, too, is the NBC News White House correspondent, Peter Alexander, who asked Biden the question, tweeted about the exchange, noting that Biden responded by saying to him, "You'll be the first person I call." Biden took no questions. He told the guy early on, hey, you'll be the first person I call. And at the very end, he basically gave him the middle finger and didn't take any questions. But remember, Trump was always the bad guy. Trump always took on the press. Trump at no point sat there and tried to deflect questions. If he didn't like you, I don't like you. You're sick. You're disgusting. You're fake news. Excuse me, you're fake news. Sit down, right? The guy sat there and he bullied and he handled the press, and you got freaking Joe Biden that's not answering questions about the crisis that's going on. I think the American public have a right to know what the hell's going on when they freaking funded this thing for 20 years. I think the American public has a right to know how many Americans are stranded. I think the American public has a right to know how many people you're evacuating per day, which the Pentagon is still struggling to tell us exact numbers. What is their response? It's all fluid. We don't want to give you the numbers because it's always changing. It's fluid. God forbid you give us a range and an average on what you're exporting every single day or what you're evacuating every single day, but they don't want to do that because it's embarrassing. Again, they're not meeting their quotas. They're lying to us. Glenn Beck said there's more than 10,000 people himself Glenn Beck, the one that's on the ground that we can trust, a conservative that we can actually trust, is telling us specifically the U.S. government is lying to us. The White House is lying to us, and we're not going to let it happen here on the Bald Brad Show. At the Daily Wire, they're not going to allow it to happen. Fox News isn't going to allow this crap to happen. You know what? Politico, MSNBC, CNN, they can let that stuff happen, but we're going to call them out on this, and we need to be riled up over this, folks, because how can I emphasize in words the magnitude of letting a terrorist organization take over an entire country? How do you put emotion into that? You know what I mean? How do you express that? It's such a simple statement, but there is so much behind that, and we just are supposed to sit here and pat them on the back because they're evacuating a few hundred citizens, because they just handed over 75,000 military vehicles to I almost said Hamas, to the Taliban. They handed 600,000 weapons. But, you know, make sure you guys write Joe a nice email. Make sure you reach out to Jen Psaki, you guys, and write her a nice email. Pat her on the back, huh? Maybe Kamala Harris, send her some cookies this time because she sent other people cookies. She deserves a pat on the back too, guys. Make sure you give them a nice phone call, folks. Send an email. Make sure you get that text out because they deserve it, you guys. They're doing a fabulous job over there in Washington, D.C. Really killing it. You know, hey, make sure you know, don't just give them credit for this, guys. Heck, while you're at it, while you're sitting in front of your laptop or your computer writing that email, hey, give them credit on what's going on at the U.S.-Mexico border. Tell them how much you love paying higher gas prices. Tell them how much you love that your grocery bill went up every week. You let them know that you're loving the inflation increase. Oh, and you know what? Why don't you just go ahead and already tell them that you are going to be expecting a price increase I should say a price increase, but an increase in percentage of your taxes. Just go ahead and throw that out there because that's going to come in the future. Might as well get it out of the way now. What a bunch of phonies here from our U.S. government here, and that's why us conservatives and Republicans, we don't trust our government. That's why we don't want to give them more power, and this is what happens when you let people that shouldn't be in office. They freaking destroy everything, and that's why we don't want our federal government, our government in general, to have a lot of power, but that's what the Democrats want. They want to give these idiots more power constantly, establish new laws, legislation, regulations over us, so they can freaking destroy our own country domestically the same way that they're destroying Afghanistan. Well, with that being said, folks, thank you so much for listening to the Bald Brad Show today. I know I rambled a lot. There's a lot of news to cover here. Very easy to do an hour to 3 hour episode on this stuff, but I know you guys want shorter videos here, so I'm going to try and package it in a way that I can. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the Bald Brad Show. Again, thank you always for your support, folks. And lastly, I am reading the comments. I'm very busy with work right now, right? Teaching, reffing, doing the Bald Brad Show. I also have my other YouTube channel that I do, a restoration channel. So I'm reading your comments. I promise you guys know that I read them. It's just been a little bit tough to sit down and write comments to everybody, especially my old videos are actually getting views as well. So just know, my regulars, I see everything you guys are writing, I promise, and I am reading them individually. I'll see if I can comment on some. It's just getting a little bit tough at this time. So with that being said, thank you so much for always supporting me. I love you guys. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow here on the Bald Brad Show.